Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to RC Overload. Been a crazy past couple of weeks. I know I haven't been around much. I've been extremely busy pulling some extra overtime with my other jobs and family and Christmas and New Year's and all that other fun stuff. So I haven't unfortunately had that much time to make videos for you guys. However, I've still been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Getting some new cars ready here for 2017, some new projects, ideas, parts, reviews, and setting up this whole new weekly series that you guys are going to start seeing. What we are doing now is something called viewer questions. Every single Tuesday, we're going to be answering your questions here on the show. I'm going to hand select at random anywhere between 3 to maybe 6 questions or so each episode, and we'll answer them for you guys. Now, occasionally I might have, say, Brett or somebody else help us out, and maybe we'll have an interview with somebody here for Tuesday, So we got a few ideas popping up for 2017, and I'm pretty excited about it. So yeah, it's been crazy, but I am looking forward to getting back making videos again for you guys. Like I said, I got a lot of cool projects coming up and a lot of cool things that I want to show you, and we're going to be making some changes here on the show as well, some new things that we're adding to the episodes to hopefully make it a lot more fun for you guys. So with that said, welcome back. Thanks again so much for being patient with us, you guys. And we're going to start our episode with our very first question. Hey Matt, do you think aluminum upgrades is good for any RC? Aluminum upgrades for any RC? It depends really what it is that you're replacing on it, so to say. Some aluminum stuff is cool, it's fine, it'll work. But I usually steer people away from getting aluminum parts on bashers mostly for things like, say, the shock tower or the control arm. Things that take a little more abuse than other parts of the truck. And the reason why I say that is the control arms, they obviously take a lot of abuse, especially when you're bashing or you're hitting something. So the likelihood of bending that aluminum piece is actually very high. And if you bend that aluminum piece, well, it's done, it's broken. You can't rebend it back usually. Most companies that make aluminum, if you try to bend it back, it's never going to go back to the way it was, or it's more likely to break. So unfortunately, things like a shock tower or the control arm, if it bends and it breaks, which will happen easily, you're out of that money that you just spent on those nice, shiny, cool-looking parts. Now, don't get me wrong, I think aluminum looks great on RCs, but it really comes down to what pieces it is that you're replacing. Things like the C-hubs or even the knuckles, those are fine. I've never really run into a problem with stuff like that. Other aluminum pieces inside the chassis itself usually are fine. Most of the time when you get an aluminum chassis from the factory, aluminum chassis, say for instance on my 5T, the whole thing has an aluminum chassis completely made out of it. Those usually tend to be extremely strong and not likely to bend or break. But stuff like aftermarket companies, their quality in aluminum may not necessarily be the greatest. So it really depends on, trying to figure out what it is you're doing with the truck. If you're bashing with it, stay away from the parts that are going to take the most amount of abuse. Like I said, the stuff with the control arms and the shock towers, it's best to stay with things like RPM, much harder plastic, much more solid plastic, for a lot less money, and you're going to get a lot more longevity out of it than if you went with something with aluminum on that. Hi there, I'm looking for a micro crawler for the indoor fun, but I can't decide on the Ambush, the Devastator, or the Grande 118. Do you prefer one over the other? I know there's a big price difference between the Devastator, the Pro line, and the RC 4-wheel drive, but I don't mind paying more if it's worth it. The HBX looks like it might have more power, and the 4-wheel steering is just too cool, but I love the detail in the other two rigs. Thanks a million, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, buddy. I'm not sure about the Devastator because I've actually never seen it. I've never used it, so I can't give you my honest opinion about that one. But as far as the Ambush and the Grande go, they are, in my opinion, two totally different vehicles. The Ambush is 1/25th scale and the Grande is 1/18th scale, so there is a little bit of a size difference there. The real tough part comes down to what it is that you want out of the vehicle. The Grande has a lot of great high detail to it. So if you're looking for something that's really small with a lot of scale realism, the Grande would definitely be a better way to go. But if you're looking for something to bash around that you don't mind beating up quite a bit and can take the abuse, definitely go more with the Ambush. The Grande, unfortunately, has a very weak motor to it, and it probably won't last, and it has a hard time, getting through a lot of the obstacles and terrains that even I was using on mine. But the Ambush has 3 different speed settings, so if you do get caught up in something, you can usually pop out of it by going to a higher setting. So it really comes down to what it is that you want to do with it. If you're going to be doing some upgrades to them later on and you don't mind doing that, the Grande can definitely be a much better vehicle just by putting in the dual brushed motor setup like I did to mine in it. And it can be as good, if not better, than the Ambush as far as the crawling abilities go. But if you're comparing 2 stock trucks, definitely the Ambush, overall, in my opinion, is definitely a better vehicle to go for. Again, unless you're looking for scale realism, then definitely go more with the Grande and just look into maybe getting a better motor setup. But as far as the Devastator, like I said, I haven't seen it, so I can't give my 2 cents on that one right now. What is the runtime with this totally stock setup? On my Axial SCX10 II, it's actually a kit version, so I put in my own electronics into it. So I'm running a Tekin 35-turn motor with a Holmes Hobby basic ESC, and currently I'm running anywhere between 4,000 to 64,000, well, 4,000 to 6,400 milliamp 2S LiPo battery in it. And I'll be honest, I haven't even fully run an entire pack through that truck, continuing from a fully charged to dead battery. I've run multiple times with the truck, just never completely emptied out the battery. However, I have the exact same setup in my original SCX10. And last time I checked, I was using a 5,000 milliamp battery, and I got about just under 2 hours of runtime. Now again, it also will depend on how you drive the truck. So if you're constantly full throttling it, time is definitely going to be a lot less than if you were just regular crawling at a very slow speed. So if you do a mixture of it, you can expect to see anywhere between maybe an hour and a half to maybe a little more than 2 hours on a 5,000. Some guys have even reported that they've gone even higher, closer to almost 3 hours, maybe even 4 hours actually, depending on the size of battery. But it's not 30 minutes or 20 minutes or anything like that. You can expect a good couple of hours out of that size of a battery pack. And again, it depends on the battery. It depends on the size of the battery, and depends on the motor that you're running in it and the electronics that you're running in it. If you're running LED lights and you're using a winch, obviously your run times are going to be a little bit less than if you just had your basic electronics in it. So it's kind of hard to tell, but that hopefully will give you a little bit of an idea as far as, runtime that you can expect with this setup. I have the same truck with the same tires, but when I reverse, the truck gets squirrely and zigzags back and forth. Any ideas what's causing it? Usually, from things that I've seen when I'm working on trucks, when you're backing up and the tires, tend to flop back and forth, usually indicates that one or many multiple parts in your steering is actually loose. More common or not on the ESC setups, the actual steering rack or steering assembly themselves tend to get a little bit loose, and that's usually what causes it. It's best to start taking pieces off one by one and actually moving each individual piece and seeing what is actually loose. You might find out that after you remove the turnbuckles off the hubs and take those and move them back and forth, you'll notice if it's causing it on yours, because obviously I don't see it, I'm not there to witness it myself. But if you take those arms off and you move them back and forth, you'll probably find that the steering rack actually moves a little bit before it actually moves anything on the steering servo. Now, it could also be that the steering servo has possibly a broken tooth, and that's causing it. It's got a little play in there. But I noticed after putting a new RPM steering assembly in mine, everything was significantly stiffer and a lot more smoother. So I guarantee you it's probably something to do with the steering rack in that. So definitely check that out. Last question. Can the SCX10 Jeep Wrangler body shell be able to fit the SCX10 II chassis? Many thanks in advance. The Jeep Wrangler body will fit the SCX10 II chassis. It's actually pretty much the same chassis. There's a few components inside that are different, but the length of the chassis is the same, and they both have the same wheelbase as the old version and the new version, being 12.3 inches. So the old Jeep Wrangler body, like you guys see behind me here, that should fit no problem on the new style SCX10 II. The only thing that you're going to probably need to do is change around the body post on it to make it fit depending on the height of the body that you want and where you want it to sit. But yes, it should work. Alright guys, that is all the time I have for today. But like I said, each week we're going to be answering your questions here on the show. So feel free to start asking us questions. It can be related to anything. Want to know something about YouTube, filming, an RC truck, how to do something, and so forth? Feel free to post them below in the comments section, or feel free to send us a direct message on Facebook, Instagram, or even Twitter, and we may end up using your question here on the show. Well, it's also come to that time where I am now going to be adding at the end of every Tuesday's episode is my recommendation for the week. It's a recommendation as far as a video that I think is really cool and you guys should definitely check out. For this week's video recommendation, if you guys have not seen it or have not heard it, it's Mammoth Works 1/3 scale off-road RC truck. This thing is just absolutely off the hook. So feel free to go check it out. I'll post a link in the description box, or you can check out this link right here. It's insane. The thing is just absolutely insane. So go check it out, take a look, and that is all the time I have for now. So until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next RC Overload.